Andy Jaffe commits to Ole Miss. Let's react to it. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, special edition.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. Subscribe there. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, or more importantly, Ole Miss every day. We truly enjoy being Ole Miss's morning show. This is a lot of fun to do. Anyway, hi, I'm Stephen Willis. This is a special edition of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. We are reacting to Andy Jaffe's announcement that he's committing to the Ole Miss Rebels. Now, I probably need to check in and figure out that I'm pronouncing that last name correctly. And if I'm not, I deeply apologize. But I think it's Jaffe. When I was talking to Brian Smith, that was the impression I got on that. And we talked with Brian Smith a couple of weeks back whenever Andy went on his official visit to Ole Miss and looked at his video and talked about all of the things that, like, hey, this video does not match where he is ranked. This is the type of kid that if he would have stayed with Wake Forest, you'd have looked up and he'd have been a junior all-conference player. That is the type player that ends up like that. This is that guy. If you wonder why Wake, how they do stuff like that, they find these athletes that have seemingly fallen beneath the cracks. So, really good football player. And I'm just genuinely excited that Ole Miss picked up this commitment. Absolutely. Now, if you look at his profile, you can see where he sits on On3, 247 ESPN, and Rivals. He is a mid to low level 3-star. And the reason that is, speaking with people that would know in that situation, the kid doesn't necessarily play the recruiting game the way that a lot of people do. Andy is really enjoying high school. He's enjoying being a high school athlete. He is really, really gifted at what he does, but he's not going out trying to chase stars. He's not going out trying to chase rankings and all of this stuff. He wants to be the best he can be. He wants to go to college and replicate that. And if you look at his highlights, which we're going to look at in just a second, you can see that it doesn't necessarily match up to where he is. Now, he's a 6'1", 185-pound safety, according to On3, from Clearwater Central Catholic in Clearwater, Florida. He's got some juice to him. This is an article from the Palm Beach Post about their game against Chaminade Madonna. Now, if y'all haven't heard of that high school, and if you're wondering what type of category Clearwater Central Catholic is in high school football in Florida, Chaminade Madonna, I believe Braylon Brown spent some time there. He may have transferred out, but I believe he was there, and they always are pretty consistently putting prospects into college. He's the lone statistical leader given as well of their team, and there's D1 prospects. Now, in Florida, in Mississippi, for instance, heck, they might have a 7A now. I don't know. But it's 1A through 7A. And in Florida, it's a little bit different. You have the inner city jumbo schools, you have the rural schools, and then you have the mid-level area schools. And Chaminade Madonna and Clearwater Central Catholic falls into that category. There's a Class 1, Class 2, and I think in some cases a Class 3. So there might be 7 classes total in Florida, but they're divided up differently than they are in some other states. But this is just to give you an idea. Just because you see a 1 by his name, it is not Pisgah playing Puckett. These are talented schools. For instance, like Ole Miss got a commitment from DJ Holmes from Pahokee and Austin Simmons from Pahokee, and everybody's like, oh, that's a 1A school in Florida. That area is about the size of Vicksburg. So what would be a 5 or 6A school in Mississippi, that is what is happening in Florida. So you can't necessarily just look at that number and go apples to apples with Mississippi high school football. Be very careful doing that as well. Now, it's also worth knowing that Andy Jaffe is a accomplished track athlete. These are the top high school football prospects to watch at the FHSAA Track and Field State Championships. Andy Jaffe made that list, running 4x100. Jaffe verbally committed to Wake Forest in January. He finished the 2022 season with 123 tackles and 2 interceptions. I think he's somewhere around 11.3, 11.4 in the 100 meters. I mean, that's running pretty good. He's also running 200 meters with Clearwater Central Catholic as well. The point is, he is a quick athlete. He is an accomplished track athlete. He is a really good football player, and we're going to look at the highlights in just a second. But I wanted to get all of this out of the way earlier so everybody can see exactly what we're looking at. Now, my reaction to everything going on, Ole Miss, my everydayers can attest to this. The safety room was the room I was most worried about, because even the kids that we were bringing in for safety were essentially corners that were recruited to play safety. We didn't have a free safety. We haven't had somebody to replace A.J. Finley. I mean, this season is probably going to be John Saunders, but he's a converted cornerback. Now, I'm not saying he can't do it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that this is a very specialized position that you need to find the right people to play it. In the last couple of days, you got Travis Banks from Northridge, I think it's Northridge, in Tuscaloosa. And I told you, he is more of a strong safety. He's more of an Otis Reese type player. Andy Jaffe is more of the A.J. Finley type, more of the quarterback of the defense, somebody that is going to get everybody aligned and get them exactly where they need to be. Now, are we expecting Andy Jaffe to come in and compete immediately? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying he can't. This is, like I said, this is the type player that if he'd have stayed at Wake Forest, you'd have looked up as a junior and he was an all-conference player. He has the ability to develop that much. For somebody that has not played the game in recruiting, whenever he comes there, it's going to be a major jump from wherever he lands to wherever he ends up. Once Ole Miss hits him with a training table, once Ole Miss hits him with specialized instructions, whenever he concentrates on a single sport, because I get the feeling with Andy, he's played a ton of sports at Clearwater Central Catholic. He hasn't concentrated on anything. He has major development potential. This is rare for the state of Florida, especially that hub. Heck, he's not far. Clearwater is not that far away from where Dexter McCluster was. Not far away from Michael Trigg was. This is a nice hub for high school football. So to have somebody come out that is real similar to what a Mississippi prospect would come out and just kind of emerge onto the scene, that is a unique thing. And props to Lane Kiffin and Pete Golden for finding him, and props for getting him away from Wake. I think he has offers, Pitt, Boston College, a lot of schools in the Northeast, a lot of ACC offers. His first SEC offer was Ole Miss as well. But let's look at the highlights real quick before we get out of here. This is a super fast athlete. And I don't think, looking at him, you can really you wouldn't expect that. It's kind of like somebody with a deep voice coming through there, and is like a short guy with a deep voice, something like that. Andy is an excellent football player, and his speed really shows. And his speed allows him to be essentially the best athlete on the field many times in a state where there are a ton of great athletes. And you can see him play free safety, and he flashes, the center of the field capability of reading the play. He's able to process real quickly what the quarterback is going through and make a decision and immediately get up there. You also notice that whenever he goes and tackles, you notice a lot of times a defensive player, they catch tackles. They don't give hits, they take hits. They just want to get him to the ground. Andy isn't like that. He's going to come up and he's going to strike who he's played, even though he's only 185 pounds. But he is really good in the center field, especially reading and diagnosing what is going on. That tells you that he has a mind for playing the quarterback of the defense. He can process stuff really quickly, And that is the reason he is going to be perfect for free safety at Ole Miss. But the one other thing that I'm noticing, we've already talked about his speed, but there are probably 4 or 5 times on this. The running back is in the clear heading to the end zone, and Andy goes down and makes a tackle preventing the touchdown from happening. Literally saves his team. Now, you saw on the record earlier that Clearwater Central Catholic was 12-1. They're probably 12-1 in large part because of Andy Jaffe making these plays. He's really good in special teams. Offensively, which they tried to use him as a jet sweep guy, as a little bit of a slot receiver. He didn't look as natural playing on the offensive side of the ball, which is kind of weird for somebody that excels on special teams the way he does. So keep an eye on that and everything that's going on. But Andy Jaffe, he just impresses the heck out of me. And I think this is a really good get. People are going to look stars. They're going to make comment about him. Ignore him. If you watch his video and actually see him play the game of football in a state like Florida, taking Clearwater Central Catholic to the state championship, you understand that he's going to be okay. Get in here, develop, let Wes Neighbors, the safety coach, get a hold of him. Sit back there, learn how to play center field at the SEC level, and you might have a jewel by the time he's a junior. So like I said, if he goes to Wake Forest, I guarantee you'd have popped up and been an all-conference player as a junior. But this guy has the type of tools that you want, and he can absolutely excel at. Anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. For your second listen, check out Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy does a fantastic job with all the SEC news and coverage around the conference. So check him out as well. Everydayers, hopefully tomorrow on the show, if technology doesn't get us, Walker Jones talking NIL and the Grove Collective. So stick around for that. Anyway, see you then.